now it is, this is wonderful because I'm introducing a really wonderful friend of Bill Rotella's too. And it's our Lissa Coffey in our conversation today on speaking power into truth. And I just want to thank Dr. Sue Rubin too for giving us that title, that twist of phrase. Instead of truth into power, it's power into truth. And so Lissa, thank you so much for being with us.
Of course, it's Sunday. I'm so happy to be here.
It's wonderful to have you with us, honey. And I just want to also say that your class this morning, she is so many things. She is also a prolific writer and a relationship expert. And there's so many things, and TV, film expert. But also you are a Vedanta teacher. And it means a lot to us in our community. So it's a perfect day to have you on all together with Bill and everybody and all of our practitioners. So it is speaking truth into power. And what that means to me is that truth remains the same. And so we might as well use our power, like Bill said, which was so interesting, to make our choices into that which we know, that happiness is us, joy is us. And you mentioned that this morning in your lesson, so to speak, about it's always there. It's our veils that we pull over our eyes, that we don't tune into who we are, into that truth. And I just want to tell you also, and then I want to hear all from you. But you know, it is so interesting. After I chose this talk, speaking power into truth, I came across the Los Angeles Times article that just published about Paramahansa coming to America 100 years ago. And you talk about power and how he listened to his intuition. He didn't want to come to America, but he kept saying he kept hearing in his meditations, go to America, go to America. And that was in 1920. And so he listened deeply and he acted and he created self-realization, which we all know is swept the world. And it is still one of the largest it's getting more people involved than anybody else right now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful practice. It's based on the philosophy of yoga, and specifically Kriya Yoga is what he teaches. And Kriya is like concentration, and it's all about meditation and returning to source and looking within. And yeah, he was a brilliant teacher. And Vedanta actually is a more than 5,000-year-old practice that has the same roots as in yoga. It's just a little bit different. They're both like based on the Hindu philosophy. So it's ancient, but I think what people are finding is that these truths, which were truths way back then, apply today. And we need to realize that more than ever with all the different struggles that we're going through. So yeah, Vivekananda learned from Swami Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna, who was a saint back in India. And he was actually an avatar. So a lot of people think of him as God incarnate. So Swami Vivekananda learned from him, and he brought Vedanta to the West in like 1902. He actually came over for the Parliament of Religions in Chicago and spoke there. And when it was kind of the first time, you know, because you have to travel by boat back in those days. It was really difficult to get around. It wasn't just like you hop on a plane, and they certainly didn't have Zoom or anything like that. So this was some very new to Westerners at the time. And he started his talk by saying, "Sisters and brothers of America." And the whole crowd came to its feet and just was like, yes, we get you. We're brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. And they just embraced him with so much love right then. And it's, you know, when someone speaks truth, you recognize it, you know it in your bones that this is truth. And they embraced him and just accepted him with so much love. It was wonderful.
Yeah, you know that and what he, and it's all it is, as in self-realization, is that Kriya Yoga, as you said, which was the scientific approach to yoga, and absolutely transcending, going into truth, because there is only the one truth, that scientific approach. And Vivekananda did that too. And ultimately, what he not only brought was his teaching, but his whole beingness into all of this. And I just want to say that both of these men, and then I'm going to go back, because I want to know more about Vivekananda, but specifically Paramahansa Yogananda, when he was here, what did he do? He came and he befriended some of the greatest spiritual teachers who believed in the oneness. That was Ernest Holmes. They were friends. Manly P. Hall, who had the spiritual, the Psychic Spiritual Institute or whatever it was, and also Helena Blavatsky, who founded, the Crotona Institute, and also people like Amy Simple McPherson was taken by both of these men in that oneness. And they developed from their teachings, from Vivekananda and also Paramahansa Yogananda, the power of scientific prayer. And it was really interesting when I was reading all about this, and when he came over to Boston, Paramahansa Yogananda and then Vivekananda. Tell us more about how he swept through and also created such a large following.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is, just like you said, how people of different faiths agree on truth, because truth is universal. That's one of the principles of this universe. Truth is universal. And that's why we recognize it when we see it. And it doesn't really matter which faith you are, which religion you are. Truth is truth is truth is truth is truth. Right. So I think when Vivekananda came to America, and of course it was quite a hardship at that time, but it was an adventure, because he was bringing us truth in a different way than we had seen before. So he came to, into the port of New York, and then he made his way to Chicago, and he had so much faith. He came over here basically with no money, and he was just like, I'm just going to let God guide me and see what happens. He knew this Parliament of Religion was taking place in Chicago. Somehow he got the date wrong, and he was like a week early or something. He didn't have money to stay anywhere, so he just sat on a bench on the sidewalk and said, okay, God, take care of me. I did my part. I arrived. I showed up. Now what? And an American woman was in the apartment nearby and saw him out the window, this strange monk in an orange garb that obviously wasn't from that area in Chicago at the time. And she went out and said, hello, can I help you? What are you doing here, kind of thing? And he explained what was going on. And she said, come on in. I know about this Parliament and what's going on. And she basically gave him a place to stay and introduced him to people. And before he even gave his big talk, he was meeting people in the city and kind of establishing a following right then and there. So, the divine guided him to where he needed to be. And then, of course, he was such a sensation at the Parliament of Religions. Everybody loved him so much that he started getting talks booked all across the country and started his whole journey.
In America, yeah. And you know what, it's when I think of America, I always think it is the land of new birth and opportunity. And so new ideas, we especially if you're from California, especially, but we love creativity. We love the newness. But all of it goes back to that knowing, as you said, that Vivekananda had. I think I read a story about him, you can correct me, where when he landed, just like that woman who took care of him, and in his orange garb. And who else did he go? Who else was like that? Ram Dass. When he went to India, he wanted to know how they thought and everything, but he didn't want to give up acid. He didn't want to give up LSD. And then his guru, I think it's Meher Baba, literally, he said Meher Baba knew all about him. And then he handed Meher Baba all of his acid tabs, and he took like 30, and it didn't change him at all, because Meher Baba knew who he was. He was beyond that body. Anyway, when Vivekananda came, and then when Ram Dass came, this was the association, came back from India, and his father greeted him from the plane. He had long hair, a beard, wearing the orange garb, and his father, who was really a very wealthy man, I think with railroads or oil or something, literally got back into the limousine. He was afraid of Ram Dass. But Ram Dass again swept the country with who he had become in his revealing. Vivekananda also, I think I read a story where everywhere he went, he saw souls he had known before in previous lives. He saw souls that came from that truth, and he knew he should be exactly where he was.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's not like it was easy for him. The food was a problem for him because, the body is just not used to all these foreign things. And the weather was a problem for him. Everything was a problem. But he got beyond that and was like, I'm here to do the work. And the work is to share this message that you are eternal. And it's the truth. Here's one of his great quotes that I love, because, he was talking about this back in, Yogananda was talking about it in the 20s and on, and in the 1900s. And, this is a 5,000-year-old practice, Krishna and everybody talks about this. There's no time and space and spirit. Truth, this is what he said. All truth is eternal. Truth is nobody's property. No race, no individual can lay any exclusive claim to it. Truth is the nature of all souls. So here we are kind of waking up to this truth. We weren't here 5,000 years ago. We weren't here in 1900. We're kind of newbies to this. But when we discover it, we recognize it. And it's like that aha moment where we can wake up to it. Wake up to the truth and understand who we really are and the power we really have.
And it is amazing. And so I think what you said earlier was so true, is to know who you are, the authentic self. And that is the greatest, that is what you need to do. And once you know that power is in and through and as you, and your own unique fingerprint of God, as I say, is what you're supposed to reflect on this planet, is when that happens, then that power, you understand how you are to hold the high watch, do the integrity. And when your thoughts come that are those embracing oneness thoughts, think them clearly, speak them with clarity also. You have the vision, the thought. The words are so important, because again, you are speaking your truth into power that is exponentially growing beyond what we may see, beyond the veil, as you said, of not seeing the happiness that you are. And that veil absolutely clouds everything until you go back to that place of power, that ecstasy when it comes to you, and you get it, so to speak, or at least you think at least I think I do sometimes, maybe nanoseconds, but it is ecstasy. And that's what you want more of. That's what you want more and more and more of all the time.
Yep, absolutely. And we need to take that even a step further. Like, when we know who we are, then we also know who everyone else is, even if they don't know it for themselves. So when we see that divine within them, that helps to empower them. It helps us to see that we're all in this together, and we're here to help each other learn and grow. So we treat people differently when we know who they are. And we also react differently when we know who they are, because we know that they could say any harmful, hurtful, whatever thing, phrase to us. They could try to harm us, but we know that in reality, we are unharmable.
Yes.
The truth. We are the divine truth. And that they must be the one hurting to lash out like that. So we can totally shift the paradigm. Instead of being the victim, we can rise above and see it from a higher level and send them love and compassion and hope and prayers that they awaken and see who they truly are too, so that they can love themselves.
Yes. And Bill Rotella was talking earlier about the great divide that our country apparently has. And well, it's always been there. But what the truth is that when you recognize whatever side of the divide you're on, that if you can open up and just love unconditionally, and be who your truth is. And I have my guidelines. I always say they're very simple. You do the highest and best for all. And if it's unifying, then I'm in. But when whoever comes to me and is trying to divide my attention span, and for those who are on the Zoom call, Spencer, our sound guy, was at Home Depot, and someone was trying to change his mind about, wearing masks and everything. And when you embrace them and say, I honor you, I'm compassionate, and obviously there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of energy there, but I don't have to buy into that different opinion. Doesn't matter what the opinion is, because I know my truth. I'm centered in the truth, and my truth comes from that unconditional wisdom and love that has been with us throughout all the sages throughout the ages. People, when they were in the presence of those sages, many times just cried and wept because they recognized, whether it was Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, they just recognize that energetic presence that just said yes to truth.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, you don't have to give them preach to them or anything, because what are you going to get in a debate? So it's just kind of like, you do you, I'll do me, that kind of thing, You do you, I'll do me. Remember back in the 70s, there was a book, I'm okay, you're okay?
Yes.
I think that's the thing, is wherever you're at, that's okay. I don't need to try to change you. You're on your path. You've got your karma. It's all good. But, at the same time, I have my boundaries. Don't try to, take away my good mood, because I know what's fleeting, and I could still feel anger, knowing it'll go away or whatever, or whatever comes and goes. But at the heart of all that is the truth, which is this pure bliss, existence, consciousness, bliss. That's the truth. That's it.
I agree 100%. And so as I close out on this Thanksgiving, then I want you to close too, honey, on this Thanksgiving Day, or this week, this gratitude week. I am so grateful for it all, because how boring it would be without it. I mean, and it's there for us to waken up to it. And so every thought that it comes to me that I question or makes me angry or anything else, I'm not putting my head in the sand. I'm not saying, oh, God is, I am, and I don't have to deal with this. But in a way, I am knowing that truth, and dealing with it is something that becomes, it's not even dealing, it's embracing it all, and recognizing when I'm hurting, when someone else is hurting, and just loving everyone right where they're at. And that's a big task, but that's what it's all about. And I'm grateful for everything that brought about this idea of expressing gratitude on a day. And it doesn't matter how some of the stories have been, changed now. I say one of the biggest things recently is all our history is it's real history, because it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's the truths of how we all got where we are, and how we respond to what is happening around us has also been skewed, and we bought into a lot of that. So when I see truth and know truth in my heart of hearts, I am so grateful. So I'm grateful for it all, and I'm grateful for everyone, and I'm grateful for you. And I turn this over to you, Lissa.
Yeah, and I am grateful for you and for this whole community. It's amazing. And we just have to remember that we have to find our willpower and our, mental power to remember the truth, to tap into that truth. But when we do, that truth then gives us strength. And Swami Vivekananda said, it is truth alone that gives strength. That's know who you are, and that realization that Yogananda was talking about too, that self-realization is realizing who you are, gives us strength. And it's the strength that was there all along. It's not a new strength. It's not like we have to, work out and now I'm strong and I wasn't before. You were always strong. There was just something covering it up that you didn't know.
I love that. And I want you to also tell us one more time about, in class, one time you were saying how we are reflections of the perfections, and it was looking in the pails of water, how the oneness, and yet we are unique.
Yeah, so we all think we're, these little individual beings, but we don't recognize our truth is the sun. So the analogy is, the sun is like all of us. That's the truth there. But then you see these buckets on the ground. Each one is filled with water. That, represents our body, mind, the bucket and the water. And what do you see in the buckets? You see all the little suns. And so you look at the bucket. How many suns are there? Oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Those are reflections of the sun. You take a bucket, pour out the water, kick the bucket, literally kick the bucket. How many suns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. No. One sun. There is one sun always. That is the truth. And that is who we are. It's reflected in our body, mind, but that's who we are. That's who everyone is.
Thank you so much, honey. I love you. Namaste. Thank you for so much for being with us. And I would like to promote also your, on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on on your Zoom channel, there you have your class, and it is so wonderful.
Just once a month.
Oh, fourth Sunday, yes, every fourth Sunday, yes.
Yes.